Hello students, very good morning to all of you. Today I am going to continue with the fifth slot of your chapter Ivan Tries in O level. So before continuing with the chapter, I would like to recollect what we read in the last class. We were reading this chapter about the prisoner named Ivans, who was called the prison breaker, who is used to have the last laugh. After breaking out of prison thrice, he is in prison for the fourth time and he decides to break away and is again successful. And he did so, desiring to have some sort of academic qualification while serving his imprisonment. And for this, he wanted to take the O level examination in German. A German teacher would come to teach him for 10 months in the prison, and after that, the examination is arranged in the cell itself, and a person called McCleary is called to invigilate for the exam, and the governor himself supervises all security arrangements lest the prisoner might escape during the exam. Two prison officers were deputed to keep an eye on him. The person left with all the papers after the exam got over. However, later it was discovered that Evans had escaped in the guise of the parson, and Evans had badly wounded the parson behind the prison cell. The parson tells that he knew where Evans might be found, and he was sent in police van to catch the prisoner. And since the parson was bleeding profusely, he was taken to the hospital on the way. So then further we are going to read what happens. The next paragraph says, he re-entered Deving, made his way along to Ivan's cell and opened the peephole once more. Oh no, Christ, no. There sprawled back in Ivan's chair was a man. For a second, Stephens thought it must be Ivan's. A grey regulation blanket slipping from his shoulders, the front of his closely cropped, irregularly tufted hair awash with fierce red blood which had dripped already through the small black beard and was even now spreading horribly over the white clerical collar and down into the black clerical front. So in these lines now, the word sprawl means lie back, tufted means bunch. So in these lines it is said that now Stephens, he again entered into the Deving and he once again opened the peephole of Ivan's cell, and when he looked inside through it, he cried, "Oh Christ," as he was shocked to see the situation inside. For a few seconds, he thought it was Ivan's on his chair, but it was not so. The churchman was lying back. His hair was soaked in blood. The blood was flowing down horribly from his beard to his collar and then to his black overcoat. Then further, the next paragraph says, Stephens shouted wildly for Jackson, and the words appeared to penetrate the curtain of blood that veiled McCleary's ears, for the minister's hand felt feebly for a handkerchief from his pocket and held it to his bleeding head. The blood seeping slowly through the white linen, he gave a long, low moan. Moan means a cry which is given out of pain, and tried to speak, but his voice trailed away. And by this time, Jackson had arrived and dispatched Stephens to ring the police and the ambulance. The handkerchief was a sticky, squelchy wad of cloth. So in these lines, the word awash means flooded or covered. Then veiled means face covering. Feeble means weak. Seeping means flowing. Moan is cry out of pain. Trailed means stream. And squelchy means a soft sucking sound made when pressure is applied to liquid or mud. So in these lines, it is said that now Stephens, he shouted for Jackson so loudly that even McCleary, whose ear was filled with blood was able to hear it, and the churchman was weakly searching for the hanky to stop the blood flowing from his head. The hanky also got soaked in the blood and he cried out of pain. He tried to speak but could not do so. By the time Jackson came and ordered Stephens to call the police and ambulance, the hanky got fully soaked in blood and now it was making a soft sucking sound when pressure was applied to it. Then further, the next paragraph says McCleary slowly raised himself, his face twisted tightly with pain. Dinna worry about the ambulance. Man, I'm alright. I'm alright. Get the police. I know where. He closed his eyes and another drip of blood splashed like a huge red raindrop on the wooden floor. His hand felt along the table, found the German question paper and grasped it tightly in his blood-stained hand. Get the governor, I know where he wants. Almost immediately sirens were sounding. Prison officers barked orders. Puzzled prisoners pushed their way along the corridors. Doors were banged and bolted, and phones were ringing everywhere. And within a minute, McCleary, with Jackson and Stephens supporting him on either side, his face now streaked and caked with drying blood, was greeted in the prison yard by the governor, perplexed and grim. So, in these lines, the word perplexed means confused, puzzled. Splash means a dashing sound of liquid. Grasp means to hold or to grip. Immense means massive or enormous. Streaked means lined. Caked means coated. And grim means distant. So in these lines, now McCleary, he raised himself and tells them that they should not worry about him as he is fine. And he asked for the governor as he knew where Evans had gone. So this is all a plan. As we'll read further what happens, that who is McCleary actually, we'll come to know in the end when we move further in the chapter, when we further read the story. So the blood was splashing down from his head where he was trying hard to pick up the German question paper. And all of a sudden there was massive sound of sirens. Officers were giving away orders and doors were being opened and shut and the phones were ringing. And Stephens and Jackson supported McCleary to the governor's office. His face was coated with dry blood when he was greeted by the governor at the prison yard. And the governor looked very puzzled. Then further, he says, "We must get you to hospital immediately. I just don't. You've called the police. Yes, they're on the way. But I am right. Look here." Awkwardly, he opened the German question paper and thrust it before the governor's face. "It's there, the ye. See what I mean." The governor looked down and realized what McCleary was trying to tell him. A photocopied sheet had been carefully and cleverly superimposed over the last originally blank page of the question paper. "Ye see what they've done, Governor, ye see." His voice trailed off again as the governor, dredging means clear, the layers of long neglected learning, willed himself to translate the German text before him. So in these lines, the word awkward means uneasy, thrust means push, and superimpose means place over another. So in these lines, now governor, he wanted to take McCleary to the hospital, but McCleary insisted on calling the police. He then opened up the German question paper and moved it towards the governor. He wanted to show something important to him, and the governor noticed that a photocopied sheet was cleverly laid on the blank space of the question paper, and the governor tried to recall what he had learnt in his German classes. He was willing to translate the text now. So then further, the next paragraph says, "Sei sollen dem Scorn Vara Bredeten Plan Genau fallen." There which, so all these are German words Then further he says, you must follow the plan already something. The vital point in time is 3 minutes before the end of the examination. But something. Don't hit him too hard. Remember, he is a minister. And don't overdo the Scots accent when. A fast approaching siren wailed to its crescendo. The great doors of the prison yard were pushed back, and a white police car squealed to a jerky halt beside them. Detective Superintendent Carter swung himself out of the passenger seat and saluted the governor. What the hell's happening, sir? And turning to McLeary, Christ, who's hit him? So, in these lines, the word crescendo means the loudest point of a sound, and squeal means cry or scream. Swung means wave. Detective means investigator, and superintendent means supervisor or manager. So in these lines, now it is said that the governor, he tried to translate the words written in German on the paper. He was only able to translate it partly, and it was written that everything should go by the plan. The important thing was that he had to do this just 3 minutes before the end of the exam, and he was told to hit on McLeary's head and was warned for not overdoing his Scottish accent. Then, meanwhile, the sound of the fast moving siren reached its highest point, and a white police car entered into the yard. Then, Detective Superintendent Carter waved out from his car and saluted the governor. He queried about what had happened and looked worried when he asked as to who hit the churchman. Then further, the next paragraph says, but McLeary cut across whatever explanation the governor might have given. Elsfield Way, officer, I know where Evans. He was breathing heavily and leaned for support against the side of the car, where the imprint of his hand was left in tarnished crimson. In bewilderment, Carter looked to the governor for guidance. What? Take him with you, if you think he'll be all right. He is the only one who seems to know what's happening. And Carter opened the back door and helped McLeary inside, and within a few seconds the car leaped away in a spurt of gravel. So in these lines, the word tarnished means stained. Crimson is the rich red color turning purple. Bewilderment is confusion. Leap means to jump over. Spurt is spray, and gravel is stones. So in these lines, now McLeary, he interrupts in between and said that Evans had gone to Elsfield. He was breathing heavily when he told so. And Carter looked confused and tried to seek clarity from the governor. The governor told him to take him as only he knew where Evans had gone. And Carter then helped McLeary sit inside. Within a few seconds, the car sprayed the little stones behind it, and this means that the car left the place at a great speed. Then further, Elsfield Way, McLeary said, and there it was, staring up at the governor from the last few lines of the German text. From Elsfield Way drive to Headington roundabout, where, yes, of course, the examinations board was in Elsfield Way, and someone from the board must have been involved in the escape plan from the very beginning, the question paper itself, the correction slip. So in these lines it is said that the governor, he recalled that McLeary had said Elsfield Way, and he started reading the text again and discovered that it was a route towards the examination board. He then concluded that somebody from the examination board had held him. So now further in the next line he says, the governor turned to Jackson and Stephens. I don't need to tell you what's happened, do I? His voice sounded almost calm in its scathing contempt. And which one of you two morons was it who took Evans for a nice little walk to the main gates and waved him bye-bye? It was me, sir, stammered Stephens. And just like you told me, sir, I could have sworn. What? Just like I told you, you say, "What the hell?" when you rang, sir, and told me to. When was that? The governor's voice was whiplashed now. You know, sir, about 20 past 11 just before. You blithering idiot, man! It wasn't me who rang you, don't you realize? But what was the use? He had used the telephone at that time, but only to try to get through to the examinations board. So, in these lines, the word now whiplash means sudden movement, stammer is mumble, and blither means long winded talk with no real substance. So, in these lines now, this governor he turned towards Jackson and Stephens and scolded him in a very insulting manner to help Evans walk out of the prison. And Stephens mumbled that it was he who did it because the governor had ordered him to do so. And the governor was surprised to hear this, and he said that he never did this. He never called up Stephens to take McCleary out of the prison. Then Stephens tells him the time when he called him, and the governor once again scolded them for not understanding that it was a fake call. He then realized that it was of no use as it was he who had called the examination board with a failed attempt. Then further, the next paragraph says, he shook his head in growing despair and turned on the senior prison officer. As for you, Jackson, how long have you been pretending you've got a brain, Well, I'll tell you something, Jackson. Your skull is empty, absolutely empty. It was Jackson who had spent 2 hours in Ivan's cell the previous evening, and it was Jackson who had confidently reported that there was nothing hidden away there, nothing at all, and yet Evans had somehow managed to conceal not only a false beard, a pair of spectacles, a dog collar, and all the rest of his clerical paraphernalia, but also some sort of weapon with which he had given McCleary such a terrible blow across the head. Ugh. So now, in these lines, the word despair means hopelessness, conceal is hide, and paraphernalia is things or stuff. So, here in these lines, the governor was growing hopeless now. He scolded senior prison officer Jackson for being so confident about about his own abilities, and he had spent 2 hours checking Ivan's cell and had declared that it is all okay. But the reality was that Evans was able to hide a false beard, spectacles, and other clerical stuff inside his cell. And he also had a weapon with which he had used to hit McCleary in such a terrible way. Then further, the next paragraph says the prison van backed alongside, but the governor made no immediate move. He looked down again at the last lines of the German to the Headington roundabout, where you go straight over and make your way to New Graben. New Graben, where on earth? New something? New grave. Never heard of it. There was a war grave somewhere near Reading, but no, it was probably a code word or. And then it hit him. Newbury. God, yes, Newbury was a pretty big sort of place. Now the next paragraph says he leaves the stairs to his office 3 at a time. Got Bell on phone immediately and put the facts before him. We'll get him, sir, said Bell. We'll get him with a bit of luck. The governor sat back and lit a cigarette. Ye gods, what a beautifully laid plan it had all been. What a clever fellow Evans was, careless, leaving that question paper behind. But then they all made their mistakes somewhere along the line. Well, almost all of them. And that's why, very, very shortly, Mr. Clever Evans would be back inside doing his once more. So, in these lines, now, Governor, he jumped the stairs to his office and called up Bell. He explained the entire situation to him. Bell said that he will catch him, but with some luck. Then Governor sat on his chair and started thinking while he lit up his cigarette. He thought that it was a nice plan, but felt that Evans was careless to leave the question paper behind. He then admitted that all of them make mistakes like Evans and then reassured him that this mistake of Evans will again bring him back to the prison. Then, further, the phone on his desk erupted in a strident burst. Strident is harsh. And the superintendent Carter informed him that McCleary had spotted Evans driving off along Elsfield Way. They'd got the number of the car all right and had given chase immediately, but had lost him at the Headington roundabout. He must have doubled back into the city. No, said the governor quietly. No, he is on his way to Newbury. He explained his reasons for believing so and left it at that. It was a police job now, not his. He was just another good for a gullible governor. That was all. By the way, Carter, I hoped you managed to get McCleary to the hospital. All right. Then, so in these lines, now the word erupt means flare up, and strident is harsh. Good for a giggle means for a laugh, and gullible is over trustful. So in these lines, now it is said that once again the phone rang very harsh on his desk, and Carter informed him that McCleary had spotted him in a car at Elsfield Way, and they chased him as they had noted down his number, but soon lost him at Headington roundabout. And then Governor informed him that Evans was on his way to Newbury. He then explained as to why he thinks he is going towards Newbury and then left it all on the police, as according to him, his job was done. He had already become a laughing stock for others for being over trustful person. He also then inquired about McCleary being taken to the hospital. Then further, the next paragraph says, yes, he is in the Redcliffe now. Really groggy he was. Groggy means weak. When we got to the examination offices and they rang off for the ambulance from there, the governor rang the Redcliffe a few minutes later and asked for the accident department. McCleary, you say? Yes, he's a parson. I don't. He rapped out his orders to the driver. St. Aldate's police station and step on it. Take Jackson and Stephens here, and when you get there, ask for Bell. Chief Inspector Bell. Got that? So in these lines, now the narrator says that the prison van came behind, but the governor did not move. He again looked down at the German text and tried to decode it. The word written it meant new grave, and he tried hard to find the place and then finally decoded it to be Newbury. He had got the place where Evans had escaped to. He then ordered the driver to take Evans and Stephens to St. Aldate's police station, and he also instructed them to ask for Chief Inspector Bell on reaching at the police station. So in these lines, Carter said that he has been taken to Radcliffe Hospital, and he also told him that McCleary had grown very weak when they took him to the examination office. So they rang up for the ambulance from there, and governor called in the hospital and inquired about the injured person. Then further it says, I don't think there's anyone. Yes, there is. You will find one of your ambulances picked him up from the Elsfield Way about. Oh, that, yes. We sent an ambulance all right. But when we got there, the fellow had gone, and no one seemed to know where he was. Just vanished, not a sign. So, in these lines now, the word vanish means disappear. So, in these lines now, the Radcliffe Hospital, the officers, they replied that they had sent the ambulance to bring the patient, but they found no one there, but the governor was no longer listening, and the truth seemed to hit him with an almost physical impact somewhere in the back of his neck. Then further, the next line says, a quarter of an hour later, they found the Reverend S. McCleary securely bound and gagged in his study in Broad Street. He had been there, he said, since 8:15 a.m. when two men had called and Inquiries in Newbury throughout the afternoon produced nothing, nothing at all, and by tea time, everyone in the prison knew what had happened. It had not been Evans impersonating McCleary who had walked out, it had been Evans impersonating McCleary who had stayed in. So, in these lines, the word bound means tied up, gagged is stopped, and impersonating means pretend to be another person. So, in these lines, it is said that when the governor heard about the disappearance of the parson, he didn't hear anything more from the other side. He had understood the whole truth and he was feeling a bit uneasy in his neck. After a gap of 15 minutes, they found the real Reverend McCleary, who was tied up by two men in his study at Broad Street since 8:15 a.m. The search in Newbury resulted into nothing, and it was clear that the man who was taken to the prison door by Stephens was not Evans, who had pretended to be McCleary, but Evans was the one who stayed inside the cell and pretended to be McCleary, who was in a pool of blood. Then the next line says, next paragraph, the fish and chips were delicious, and after a gentle stroll round the center of Chipping Norton, Evans decided to return to the hotel and have an early night. A smart new hat concealed the wreckage of his closely cropped hair, and he kept it on as he walked up to the reception desk of the Golden Lion. It would take a good while for his hair to regain its former glories. But what the hell did that matter? He was out again, wasn't he? A bit of bad luck, and when Jackson had pinched his scissors for it and meant a long and tricky operation with his only razor blade the previous night. But he had had his good luck too. Just think if Jackson had made him take his bobble hat off. Phew, that really had been a close call, and still old Jackson wasn't such a bad fellow. So, in these lines, the word stroll means walk, wreckage means remains, and bobble means a small ball attached to the hat. So, in these lines, it is said that so now the story is moved up to Evans. After having delicious fish and chips and a small walk near Chipping Norton, he decides to go back to his hotel room to sleep early, and he was wearing a new hat and that had smartly hidden his short hair which seemed as remains of hair, and he kept wearing it on his head even when he reached the reception of Golden Lion Hospital, and then recalled his previous night when Jackson took away his scissors and he had to cut his hair with a razor blade, and that was quite a bad luck. But then he thought about his good luck when Jackson asked him to remove his hat and how he managed to stop him from doing so. He then concluded that old Jackson was not that bad just because he was having a kind heart, so he just allowed Evans to wear the bobble hat. Then further, the next paragraph says, one of the worst things, funny really, had been the beard. He had always been allergic to sticking plasters, and even now his chin was irritatingly sore and red. The receptionist wasn't the same girl who had booked him in, but the change was definitely for the better. As he collected his key to give her his best smile, told her he wouldn't be bothering with breakfast, ordered the Daily Express, and asked for an early morning call at 6:45 a.m. Tomorrow was going to be another busy day. So, in these lines, the word allergic means sensitive and bother means concerned about. So, in these lines, it is said that one of the worst things that seemed funny to him was using a false beard. He was sensitive to the sticking materials, but he had to use it for sticking up the beard. It was now irritating him as it had reddened his chin and he was feeling pain there. And when he reached the reception counter, he found that it was not the same girl which was there at the time of his booking, but he thought that this change was good. And then he told her that he is not concerned about morning breakfast, ordered a newspaper named Daily Express and asked to wake him up at 6:45 a.m. as tomorrow was another busy day for him. Then the next paragraph says he whistled softly to himself as he walked up the broad stairs. He had sort of liked the idea, being dressed up as a minister, dog collar, and everything. Yes, it had been a jolly good idea for McLeary to wear two black fronts, two collars, but that top collar, few it had kept on slipping off the back stud, and there had been that one panicky moment when McLeary had only just got his hand up to his neck in time to stop the collar springing apart before Stephens. They had got that little problem worked out all right, though a pen stuck in the mouth whenever the evil eye had appeared at the peephole. Easy. But all that fidding about under the blanket with the black front and the stud at the back of the collar, that had been far more difficult than they had ever bargained for. Everything else had gone beautifully smoothly, though in the car he had found everything they had promised him: soap and water, clothes, the map, yes, the map, of course, the Ordnance Survey map of Oxfordshire. He had got some good friends, some very clever friends. Christ, ah. So, in these lines, the word panic means fear or alarm. Fidding is petty, annoying thing, and bargain here thought or planned for. So, in these lines, it is said that he was climbing up the broad stairs while whistling. Who was climbing? Evans. Evans was climbing the hotel stairs, and because he was going to his room, and Evans was once again lost in his thoughts. He liked being dressed up like a minister, the dog collar and other things, and he thought it to be a good idea that McLeary was wearing two collars, two fronts. But the top collar was slipping off again and again. But there was a moment of great fear when McLeary tried to stop his collar from falling down with his finger in front of Stephens. They had somehow solved the problem by always keeping a pen in his mouth whenever Stephens peeked inside. There was a little annoying moment while he was trying to wear black front and the stud at the back collar, that was difficult for him. Otherwise, things went well. He got everything in the car which they had promised him: soap, water, and map. The Ordnance Survey map of Oxfordshire. He thought that he had got some good and clever friends. He needed a map just to reach to the place, that is some Golden Lion, that is he wanted to reach to the hotel. Then further,